What's going on in Russia right now reminds me a lot the last days of the USSR. In 1990 and 1991, the evil empire was falling apart. And every day, whoops, we had, sorry about that, every day we had news that were actually hard to believe. For example, imagine this. You're born and raised in the communistic USSR where people go to prison for making a buck, a ruble. You buy something, sell it for profit. If you get caught, you get 5 years in prison for so called illegal entrepreneurship. And there comes 1988, and Gorbachev allows Russians to do business legally by opening companies. The criminal code article for illegal entrepreneurship is still there, it still exists, but a new class of citizens is all of a sudden is born, businessmen. And they coexist with good old communism and they clash. And all of a sudden you see two opposite realities with your own eyes in front of you. One is on top of another. And when the realities touch, they sparkle. And those sparks were the news. And we watched the news in the late 80s and we went, wow, almost every single day. Many things were hard to believe. I think those of you who were living in the Eastern European countries controlled by the USSR, you went through a similar thing of crazy news in the late 80s when you would turn on the TV and you would go, what? I can't believe this. Well, right now, in Russia, in 2025, I'm seeing the very same thing. The news come out every day that make me pinch myself. And this week has been special among those news. Just take a look at Ramzan Kadyrov, the almighty powerful ruler of Chechnya, a permanent feature of Russian political landscape and the foundation of Vladimir Putin's power. Who would have thought he'd flee Russia and disappear for quite some time? We'll learn more about it soon. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Something up with the sound today. Welcome to Wednesdays. This is Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, I try to give you wacky Wednesday news, straight out of the mad circus that Russia has become. But first things first, there's no such absurdity that could not be realized in Russia these days. Please remember that. In the news, I call them wacky midweek news from Russia. The news of Russia that matter at that end that you will not find in any mainstream media. But this little and big news are very important. They help me, they help us to paint a big picture of what's happening in Russia. Let me start with something funny. Russian citizens are begging Donald Trump for help. Check this out right here. Trump, please help resettle the barracks. This old rundown homes. Give us new homes. That's what this sign says. This is Russia. This is real. This is not fake. Russians are so desperate. They don't want to lose hope of getting any kind of help, and they appeal to the American president. Kind of shows of the state of desperation that some Russians are in. And I've seen the signs like that. It's not just the one, and it's not a joke. I've seen the signs, at least a half dozen of them. Another news shows that what Putin's stability and safety looks and sounds like. Folks, I want you to take a listen. And this is a very, very sad video. This is my city, the city where I was born and grew up, in Rostov on Don. If you crank your sound up, you will hear the sound of air defense siren. That is something I only heard of from the World War II books. And now it is heard in my city of Rostov, and not just in Rostov, in many other cities that border or close by to Ukraine. When Putin started the war, him and the propaganda had this message: we started the war, the special military operation, to increase safety and security of Russian citizens. And this is how increased safety and security sounds like. Again, please take a listen. Crank your volume up. The siren is all over the city. And speaking of security, there's a interesting accident that caught my attention. This man with an automatic rifle was seen in Moscow right next to a kindergarten in the very center of Moscow. Passerbyers took pictures of him, called the police, and the police obviously came and started hunting him down, but they couldn't find him. He disappeared. A man in the middle of Moscow, in Tsao, Центральный административный округ, that's where the Kremlin is, with an automatic rifle, just walking like that. Now, I lived in Moscow a long time, from 2004 to 2011, and from 2017 to 2022. Okay? And I've seen things. I know things. I know Moscow very well. And friends, I don't remember nearly anything close like that. Take a close look. I'll take a, let me zoom it in. This is the face of Putin's new increased security and safety for Russian citizens, looks like. Oh, another news is about tariffs. Tariffs for housing and communal services, in other words, the utilities. The tariffs increased in January 2025 in some provinces of Russia. At first, they said on January 3rd that in Russia, the tariffs for housing and communal services will increase by about 12%. And on January 14th, 2 weeks later, the authorities increased utility tariffs by 26% in Kemerovo. One third, more than one third. Oh, I'm sorry, 1/4, more than 1/4. Imagine your utility bill goes up by 26%, just for nothing. Well, it's a small lie in the way of many big lies. Hey, who notices these myriads of small lies these days? An expert on housing and communal services, Dmitry Bondar, I didn't even know that government experts like that even exist, he explained why the tariffs were increased. Well, it's very simple, and there's nothing to worry about for the Russians. They simply increased due to the changes in the structure of billing periods. Just like that. According to Bondar, in December, the data from metering devices, the meters, was read ahead of schedule. For example, before the middle of the month, on the 14th of December. And this results in a longer period being taken into account when calculating payment in January. The paid period can extend up to 45 days, which automatically increases the amount of payments. Did you just understand what I said? what I said? If you did, congratulations, because it took me 3 times to read it in Russian to understand. Let me translate into simple English. The expert says in December, the meters are read, they transmit the information in the middle of the month, let's say at December 15th, instead of the usual end of the month. Therefore, people in January pay for the second half of December and the whole month of January. Time and a half. Makes sense, right? Oh, not so fast. There are 2 problems here. First, the meters are online and they transmit the data constantly. You can read the data at any second you want. You can read them on the very last hour of every month. Okay, one can read the data at any time. That's one problem. And the second problem, the math doesn't add up. You see, people still pay for the entire month of December as if there are 30 days, and then they pay time and a half for January. And they're explained that they overpaying something for December. So full month of December and then month and a half, January and half of December. The dots just doesn't connect. They don't connect. It doesn't make any sense. And the experts just try to fog up people's mind. An expert in Russia is the kind of a person who will explain everything properly for the authorities' sake. But this is what I don't understand. Why are people buying it? Why are they paying it? No matter how you try to sell it to them, no matter how you try to brainwash them, it's still the people who take money out of their pockets and pay time and a half. Most Russians say something like this: well, they up there know better. Gotta pay. Perfect Russian logic. So the next news is about the uh, government of one of the provinces, Saratov. It's a province in the central of Russia, and the governor has asked all owners of restaurants to transfer money monthly to pay war veterans in Russia. The owner of Saratov restaurant Dacha, Yelena Pavlova Rushinova, posted in the chat of restaurant owners a request from the government of Saratov province to transfer money for payments to the participants of the war with Ukraine. Here is the letter that the restaurant owner received. They are asking for regular financial assistance for their participants of the war, 0.2% of the turnover of the legal entity, the company, every month. She commented this letter. According to the document signed by Alexei Nikitin, deputy chairman of the regional government, the money is being requested to be transferred to the account of the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection of Saratov province. The officials also asked to bring the information to all representatives of the industry. What the heck? Not only they mobilize people, not only they send them to the war that no one really knows why they're fighting, but they also request businesses to put the burden of paying those people on their shoulders. I think it's just a preview of what is to come to all Russian businesses, or, oh my goodness, friends, just get ready for this. You will see much more of that on a much larger scale because money is going to come out of someplace. That's going to come out of your pockets. The owners of small businesses in Russia. Moving onto some economic news. Look, if we look at the new construction in Moscow, there's no sense of holiday. There was no holiday feeling in the holiday season, and there's no holiday now. Valentine Day, Chinese New Year, whatever. Holidays are simply not in real estate in Moscow. Sales collapsed by 20%, and the market was limited to 137,000 sales contracts. As much as 68% of mortgage transactions have declined, but this percentage is fallen right now. Um, it still has a long way to go. The reasons are clear. Subsidized mortgages are a thing of the past, and the key interest rate of 21% makes mortgages start at 29% annuity, and which is, you have to be absolutely insane to take out a mortgage at 29%. The requirements for subsidized programs that still exist, but not too many of them. So the requirements are so high that mere mortals have no chance of receiving subsidized mortgage from the government. Real estate market collapse is up in the air. Please follow Inside Russia. If you haven't signed up yet, please do so. Like this message and keep on tuning in because that's what I talk about every single day. I spend all my time following this news, so you don't have to. Come and get the summaries. The next news, friends, like I said in the beginning of the stream, this more and more reminds me of the USSR in the 90s, 1989, 1991. These news are so insane. You know how Russia has been in cahoots with China for the past 2 years. Just wait until I tell you something. Speak of China a bit. The Kremlin's hopes for China's help in overcoming circumventing sanctions and the technological blockade by Western countries turned out to be in vain. According according to common sense and logic and facts, China, although it has become the largest supplier of goods to Russia, and bilateral trade has grown by 70% since beginning of the war, Russian companies have not been able to completely replace Western equipment and raw materials with Chinese imports. According to the customs statistics, and it doesn't lie, in Russia it can be cooked, okay, but it's, we suppose, if it's true, okay, then the imports of medical and optical equipment from China increased by $1.3 billion per year compared to 2021. And that number, 1.3 billion, compensated only for 60% of the lost supplies from Europe. Europe was supplying around 2 billion per year. Imports of plastics and polymers from China increased by about 1.6 billion, but this covered only 40% of pre-war imports from the EU. In the category of mechanical equipment, Chinese companies replaced 60% of what Europe used to supply, um, all due to sanctions lost. Less than a quarter of imports has been replaced in the category of electrical equipment. In other product groups, there's a significant increase in imports from China. None. It didn't happen. For example, aircraft shipments from European Union fell by 3.1 billion per year, while new Chinese exports amount only to 201 million. That's only 7% of what Russia used to buy from the EU. China supplies substances for the production of medicines to Russia, and the supply is worth only $108 million per year. 86 times less than Europe supplied Russia pre-war. It used to be $9.3 billion per year. Now it's only 108 millions. The most interesting news, well, you see that Russia has never become a trade partner of Russia. And Russia desired it so much. No, I've covered all this news over the 3 years, and I've said many times that Russians were over their heads going to China, begging for money, begging for increased trade and so forth. But it hasn't happened. And, it was kind of predictable. The most interesting news of China comes from Russian politicians. They start flip-flopping. From calling China the best friend, from calling China the brother of whatever, sister of Russia, from saying that with China Russia will survive anything, with saying that the West is before saying the West is the enemy and China is the friend and the partner and so forth. Now they start blaming China. After Trump talked to Putin, after this whole commotion started a few days ago, all of a sudden, the USA is good. And China is the country that we need to look closely at and really understand its role, the role it's playing in the Russian demise. China could very well be the enemy. I kid you not, I heard that from a Russian politician. That is one of the most interesting developments in early 2025. China talk. I will talk more about that. I'll give you details in the crazy Friday news that are coming in 2 days. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be my headliner, and that's going to be hell of a news. Whew. I certainly did not expect that. I thought that Russia's relations with China would just continue being pretty much on the same level. But holy moly, China is the enemy. Who is supplying drones to Ukraine? Who is killing Russian soldiers? China! Oh! Well, sorry. That's uncontrollable reaction. Okay. Now, I would like to take this opportunity before moving to the next news. I want to thank you. Thank you for watching this right now. Thank you for supporting me by liking my videos. If you haven't liked it, please do it now. Helps a lot. Thank you for sharing my videos with your friends and social media accounts. Thank you for sending me good wishes. Thank you for praying for me, with me, and thank you for sending me love. Thank you, friends. Very difficult time for me, but I feel your love. I feel your support, and it plays a tremendous part in my life. Thank you. Thank you for coffees that you buy at buymecoffee.com. Thank you for supporting via Patreon and PayPal. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Monetized or demonetized, well, still demonetized, and perspectives are unclear at this point. Um, nah, let's not even get started on that. But you have my promise. I will, no matter what, I will continue doing my work. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now the next news is funny. It's really funny. Um, it's probably funny for me. It'll be funny for you, but not so funny for Russians. I want you to check this out. This is and this is something that not just us will watch right now, but that's the entire Russia watches in February of 2020.
Сашенька, Амели с тобой пока погуляет, а маме нужно на работу. Только кормите чем-то нормальным.
Mom is going to work, and Amelie is going to take you for a walk. Amelie is the nanny.
Евгения Викторовна,
This, and she speaks with a very French accent, you know. Oh, I need a vacation. I need to go to Suzdal. Oh, my family, my parents, I need to take a vacation and go to Dijon. And why do you need to go to Dijon? Well, my parents have fled France. I'm sorry. She says, oh, I need to take a vacation. I need to go to Suzdal. Suzdal is a city not too far from Moscow. Says, what are you going to do in Suzdal? Oh, my parents have fled France, the city of Dijon, and they've resettled in Suzdal. He goes, how do they like Suzdal? But, oh, they absolutely love it. Good people, good country for good people. That's the commercial. And that's advertisement, the federal advertisement of relocation from the USA and the European Union for, to live in Russia. This obviously it's a Polish guy swearing. Boy, what can I say? I don't know. Perhaps it's me stupid. Please let me know in a comment what you think. But is it only me noticing, or perhaps I'm taking it in a very wrong way? They have this advertisement in Russian about Russia, and in small letters they say, for the residents of, for people of the USA and Europe to move to Russia freely, call this number, okay? But they're doing it in Russian, and they're showing it to Russian people, to Russian audience. Is there anything wrong with this picture? This commercial is clearly towards Russians. First, it was Europe will freeze without Russian natural gas. Remember? I spoke about it recently. Then the Europeans will starve and will eat their own hamsters by Christmas of 2023. And now Russians will have French nannies and Polish electricians. Well, those commercials about Europe would freeze without Russian gas and starve, they didn't age well. Now it's different. Now it's Europeans will run away from Europe to work as migrant workers in beautiful Russia. Again, they show with this video to Russian people. And there's another catch. They show this video, but they conveniently don't compare salaries, say, of a Russian doctor and a French janitor. A Russian doctor receives around $600 per month, and a French janitor receives over €1,000 per month. And I'm not even speaking of Polish electricians. I think they earn way more than Russian doctors. And there's no way in hell any Polish electrician would move to Russia to work. That's just laughingstock. The main idea of this commercial is it is made to believe that someone in Europe, someone who lives well now, someone who has beautiful life in the European Union, someone who enjoys it, that someone will soon live worse than you. And Russians absolutely love that. The next news comes from North Korea. I'm telling you, these news are absolutely insane. I don't even know how to approach it. All right. As it turns out, I'm sorry. As it turns out, Russians do vacation in North Korea now, these days. And that is true. That is not a joke. That is not a fake. I checked. Really, it's not a joke. The number of Russians who visited North Korea in 2024 has been revealed. Well, guess what? More than 1,500 Russian tourists visited North Korea in the last year. 1,500. I was thinking, who in the right mind would visit North Korea for vacation? But then I got it. The tour to Korea is probably called Peeking into Russian Future. Be prepared what's coming to you. Be in the know. That's the only way I can explain why Russians would vacate in North Korea. By the way, there will be more news like this if you want to keep up with other breaking news from Russia. Become patron of Inside Russia. Every single day, I carefully select and post 9 news that I find important with my commentaries and analysis. It'll keep you informed on everything you wanted to know about Russia, but were afraid to ask. Now you know where to ask. Become patron at patreon.com. I'm going to put the links down below in the description after the end of the stream and in the pinned comment. So become a patron and get the access to the news that matter. The next news is double standardish. The Russian Prosecutor General's office has declared activities of a Czech company called, please forgive me, Compulsom, SRO, undesirable in Russia. According to the Prosecutor General's office, this organization provides special services to law enforcement agencies of various countries, including the United States of America, it provides software that allows access to research and analyze information on electronic devices, including deleted data. The program is called Mobile Edit. Mobile Edit may also be used by Russian security forces. In particular, in February of 2024, a year ago, Alexei Kulikov, a senior lecturer at the Department of Operational Investigative Activities of the Eastern Siberian Institute of the Federal Police, it's a long name, and Teimuraz Kadzov, the lecturer at the Department of Fire Training, noted the popularity of Mobile Edit in Russia. I quote, "The results of the study of the practice of the Department of Internal Affairs show that the most popular software tools among the operational departments of the Department of Internal Affairs, the Federal Police, are Mobile Edit and the Russian program Mobile Criminologist." Unquote. At the same time, back in 2015, a senior lecturer at the Department of Operational, blah, 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 same university, Vladimir Batoyev, In an article for Vestnik of the Academy of the Investigative Committee called Mobile Edit is being among the programs that can lead to a qualitative improvement of information support for the activities of operation units in the Department of Federal Police. They are using it in Russia all over. It is the most used software by the law enforcement, along with another program. And at the same time, they are banning it simultaneously. Russian logic for you. The next news are uh, the next news is very Russian. Denis Bulanov, deputy of the Saratov Regional Parliament, proposed to rename the Black Sea to the Russian Sea. The Black Sea to the Russian Sea. I personally don't see a reason why Russia wouldn't do it. The last time I logged into the Google Maps, what used to be known as the Gulf of Mexico is now called the Gulf of America. So, why not Russian Sea? Russia, knock yourself out. And I think the other countries have a right to follow the suit. Hey, we all have the same rights, right? All the countries are created equal, right? We are certainly living in a very interesting time. The next news are, um, well, about the numbers. The numbers are out. In December of 2024, the average cost of credit card loan in Russia increased to 38.8%. And that is the average. 38.8%. Quite a few credit cards and banks charge much more than that. I don't think I don't have any comments here. The next news is snow. Snowden. Old sport Edward is alive and well. The wife of former US NSA intelligence officer Edward Snowden has applied for Russian citizenship, but probably no reasons why she wouldn't get it. Looks like they have a child. The face is covered to be in accordance with privacy laws. But that's Edward for you and his lovely wife. And the next news is of banks. I used to think that a bank run, or a bank panic, a domino of banks, is when depositors withdraw their deposits, when people run to banks. But apparently, a bank run in Russia is when bankers run away with depositors' money. Theft by Russian bankers from bank safe deposit boxes is becoming systematic and is on the rise. Recently, an employee of a Moscow bank stole about 180 million rubles, that's about $1.8 million dollars, from a client's safe deposit box, just took out the money in installments, and managed to transfer everything into the cryptocurrency. The banker was caught at an airport while attempting to leave Russia. Now, that's what I call a bank run. And if I were in Russia, I would keep my money in a tin can under my pillow. Now, the next news is I made a video back in summer of 2022 and I brought it up not too long ago. Butter in Russia has become very expensive. From being a staple, it has become to kind of luxury food. Not too many people can afford butter. Therefore, the stores lock butter into an anti-theft cages. It used to be for expensive razors, memory cards, things like that. But now it's for the butter. But there's a different problem with butter. Regular butter has been massively counterfeited in Russia by manufacturers, producers. Due to high prices, it is more profitable these days for producers to make and sell counterfeit products with a markup of up to 700%. The fines, if a producer is caught selling counterfeit butter, the fines are meager, small. It's called forgery in Russia. And the fines do not pose any real threats. It's like a traffic violation. Instead of real butter, now in a Russian store you can find a mixture of beef, pork, and tropical fats on the shelves. Their real cost is around 150 rubles per kilo, $1.5, experts say, and butter is sold for around 1100 rubles per kilo. So you see, they make fake butter that costs 150 rubles per kilo to make and sell it for 1100 rubles. Well, this is new normal. This is Putin's Russia for you. This is one of the faces of the demise that I've talked so much about it. Welcome to Russia 2025. Before we move to the last news and the big news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please let me know what you think of the news selection this time. Please comment. Which news did you like the most? Pick one, a couple, perhaps three, and please write down the comments. I appreciate your feedback very much. Helps me a lot. The last news is of changing political landscape in Russia. Um, this this news falls perfectly into this idea of crazy news, looking like they were in the late USSR. Ramzan Kadyrov spent some of December, most of January, and February out of Russia in a location unknown. Well, in Dubai, we know the location really, but it's unofficial. Officially, it hasn't been announced, and in complete secrecy. No one even knew that he had left. He did not appear in public at any public events for at least 18 consecutive days in January, according to analysis of publications on his personal blog and on the website of the State Agency of Chechnya. That is important. First, who is Ramzan Kadyrov and why it is important? No, a step back into the history of Russia. There were two Russian Chechnyan wars in Russia in 1990s and 2000s. And Ramzan Kadyrov's father, Ahmad, was one of the Chechnyan's leaders fighting against Russia. He was considered a very dangerous man by Russians, an extremist, and then he flipped sides and started fighting for the side of the Russians. Ramzan was assisting him in all his moves. Then Ahmad became the head of Chechnyan province after the end of the First Chechnyan War. And after his death, he was blown up along with quite a few people in a public event in Chechnya. Ramzan inherited his job, and the job was given to him by Vladimir Putin himself. Ramzan Kadyrov is a very close servant of Vladimir Putin. He is one of the big stones in the foundation of Vladimir Putin's power and Vladimir Putin's regime. He's one of the most feared men in Russia. He is untouchable. Yet in the last months, he has suffered a few blows, a blow after blow after blow. He owns Russia's largest private army that is feared by the Kremlin and pretty much by everyone else. Ramzan did not come to Putin's rescue during Prigozhin's mutiny, Ramzan's people, well, conveniently got lost on the way to Rostov fighting Prigozhin. They were confused by the navigator. Things happen, you know. They didn't know where to go. Russia is so large and so unexplored. They simply didn't know how to get from Grozny to Rostov. It's very difficult. There's one road goes straight into Rostov. But hey, uh, they must have missed Rostov somehow. And that was noted. Noticed and noted. Ramzan had a few failures. He tried to bite a piece of pie, wild berries, that turned out to be too large for him. Ramzan got into a fight. Wild berries is Russian equivalent of Amazon, largest marketplace, worth billions and billions of dollars. And Ramzan tried to take it over, a hostile takeover, and he got into a conflict with a Russian senator, and it was a big scandal, political scandal. And to make the long story short, Ramzan lost. He has lost his attempts to take on that asset. In other words, he got his teeth broken by another powerful Russian senator, Suleiman Kerimov. Ramzan Kadyrov suffered another blow by not being able to utilize his political connections in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, um, probably in Iran, to help Putin with Syria. Putin suffered a major blow, and he relied on Ramzan Kadyrov to help him. And the latest blow was the shooting down the passenger jet from Azerbaijan, flying from Azerbaijan to Grozny, right next to Grozny airport. And Ramzan Kadyrov made a very public move that upset a lot of people, including Vladimir Putin, including the president of Azerbaijan, a very powerful man. Um, the following day, for the reasons absolutely unknown, Ramzan Kadyrov honored people who downed the passenger plane with federal medals. And guess what? That was the last straw that could have broken the camel's back. Ramzan Kadyrov fell out of favor. He fell out of favor so much he had to leave Chechnya. Chechnya is his home. It's his land. It's his, basically property. He's the head of Chechnya, and he left. And he left in a hurry, and he left in secret. And he took his family to Dubai. He was not seen in Grozny for a long time. Now, they showed a couple times reports on local TV about Ramzan Kadyrov being in Grozny, but the rumors have it they are canned films, meaning they were filmed much, much earlier. And then he showed up a couple times for short times, funeral of friend or relative. He returned yesterday. He made a couple public appearances yesterday, and he made a few statements full of bravado, saying, "Oh, look, the rumors of me fleeing all over Russia, and then I have not fled, I am back to Chechnya," and so forth. But we need to mark three things here, and they're hugely important. Number one, the fact that the head of Russian province, almighty man, has a second home in Dubai is pretty disturbing. It sends a message to the Kremlin, it sends a message to other governors, and it sends the message to Russian elite. Hey, when things get hot, when I smell the fire, I just board my plane and I'm gone. Just like that. This is the message. Number two, he leaves just like that. Not only he sends a message, he actually does that. He has fled, he has left, and he spent so much time outside Russia. Perhaps, his informants in the Kremlin said, okay, the storm is down a little bit, it's good time for you to come back. But he's the governor of Chechnya. He left once, he's done it once, he can do it again at any time. And it is another message to the Kremlin, to everyone else. And number three, and I think this is the most important, most interesting, and kind of unbelievable. Number three, the untouchable all of a sudden is not so untouchable anymore. The foundation has shifted. Things have changed. For 20 years, Ramzan Kadyrov was the foundation, and now he flees to Dubai. If the foundation is shifting and Ramzan, the untouchable, in his position, loses the favor, imagine how other members of the elite, other governors, other ministers, and everyone else who in the vertical of power, imagine how they feel. It is good. A very interesting development. I will keep on watching and I will keep you informed. Please keep on tuning in. Carthago delenda est.